Okay, solving equations, topic 4. Let's dive right in. Question number 1. The cost of oranges in a grocery store is directly proportional to the number of oranges purchased. Jerry paid $2.52 for 6 oranges. If P represents the cost in dollars and N represents the number of oranges purchased, which equation best represents this relationship? Okay, a bunch of words, but we got a proportional relationship, so let's set that up. We have dollars per oranges. We have $2.52 for 6 oranges, and we're looking for the relationship as an equation for P, total cost, right? Because it says P represents the cost in dollars, so dollars are on the top, P's on the top because it's dollars, and N is number of oranges, so N is number of oranges. Okay. So what do we do when we have a proportional relationship and we want to solve? We cross multiply. It's very helpful. It's not the only way to do it, but it is a helpful way to do it. So we cross multiply. We have 6p, because that's how that works, and 2.52n, because that's how that works. Okay, so now what do we have? We have an equation which we can simplify by, what should we do? Well, we have 6p here. We see our answers all have just p to the left by itself. So let's get p by itself. Let's divide by 6. And if we divide each side by 6, the 6's cancel out because 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times p is just p. And $2.52 divided by 6 gives us 42 cents. And there we are. P equals 0.42n, which kind of makes sense, right? Because if we spent $2 and a little more than $2.50 on 6 oranges, we know each orange is going to cost a little less than 50 cents. So you can use this equation to get your total cost by multiplying $0.42 or 42 cents times the number of oranges, and we're good to go. P equals 0.42n. So there we are. P equals 0.42n. Okay, question 2, a similar question. Bananas cost 45 cents per pound. What equation is used to find C, the total cost of P pounds of bananas? So we have dollars per pound, and 1 pound, the unit rate, costs 45 cents. So 0.45 for 1 pound. How much is the total cost, C, that it gives us in the problem? We want to find C, the total cost per P pounds of bananas. P pounds of bananas. Just like before, let's do a little cross multiplication. That should be helpful. 1 times C just gives us C, and 0.45 times P gives us 0.45P, and I think we're good to go. C equals 0.45P. That's a simplified equation that should be helpful, and there it is. C equals 0.45P. Okay, on to question 3. A rhombus with side length S is shown below. Beautiful. The perimeter P of a rhombus is proportional to the length of each side S. Which equation represents this relationship? Okay, so remember about a rhombus is you have each side is going to have the same length. So if this guy down here is length S, this is going to be length S, that's going to be length S, and up here is going to be length S. So we have a beautiful rhombus and all sides are length S. What is an equation to compare or to demonstrate the relationship between that length of S and the perimeter? Well, you think about it, the perimeter, that's just going to be S plus S plus S plus S. So the perimeter is going to be 4S, right? That makes sense. I mean, the perimeter has to be S plus S plus S plus S, or 4S. So look at that. We're good to go. Perimeter equals 4S. If you want to do it a different way, you can say one side length is 1, total perimeter is 4, right? Because you have 1 length plus 1 length plus 1 length plus 1 length is 4. So 1 to 4 is a relationship between S to P. Do a little cross multiplication. 4S equals 1 times P, or just P. 4S equals P. Well, that's what we got doing it the other way. So we did it 2 ways, and we are definitely good to go. On to question 4. Carmine paid an electrician X dollars per hour for a 5-hour job plus $70 per parts. The total charge was $320, which equation can be used to determine how much the electrician charged per hour. So we have hourly fee plus parts equals $320. And parts were told it's a 5-hour job and parts are $70. Okay, so hourly fee plus parts equals $320. Hourly fee plus $70 in parts gets us to $320. So hourly fee again is 5 hours times some amount of money per hour, some dollar amount per hour, plus that $70 will get us to $320. So we know we're looking for X, right? The dollars per hour amount is X, so we can just say that's 5X, because we want to know the dollars per hour. That'll give us times multiplying by 5 will give us the amount of the hourly fee. So we have 5X plus 70, 70 is the parts, equals 320. What do we do now? We subtract 70 from both sides of the equation. That's good legal math. What does that give us? 5X equals, well, yeah, if we look at our answers, we're not actually solving for X, we're looking for an equation. So which equation kind of works here? Well, we know this is the distributive property, and that doesn't really make any sense because X doesn't reach the 70, so we're not going to be factoring out an X from the 70. Our other two options are 5X equals 320 plus 70 and 320 minus 70. And if you do the math this way and you go at the problem like you're going to solve it, you'll see that 5X equals 320 minus 70 makes sense because you have to minus 70 from both sides of the equation, and that will be good legal math that'll get us the correct answer. So the correct answer is minus 70. 5X equals 320 minus 70. And we're good. On to question 5. The perimeter of a certain pentagon is 10.5 centimeters. How nice. 4 sides of this pentagon have the same length in centimeters h, and the other side has the length of 1.7 centimeters, as shown below. So you have 1.7, and then you have h. The question, what is the value of h? Everything together, it's 10.5. So what do? Well, let's just add it up. Let's do h plus h plus h plus h plus 1.7 equals 10.5, because that's what we're told the problem is. Add all the h's together. How many h's are there? There's 4h. So that's 4 times h plus 1.7 equals 10.5. Subtract 1.7 from both sides of the equation. That cancels out, and the other side gets us 8.8. What's our next step? Well, of course, we divide by 4 to both sides of the equation. The 4's cancel out, and h will end up equaling 2.2. So going through the steps, adding all the h's together, subtracting 1.7, dividing by 4, we get our final answer, 2.2. And we're good. Question 6. This question is tough. It really doesn't make much sense. It didn't make sense to me the first couple times I read it. But you just got to stick with it, work through it the best you can, and I think we're going to be successful. So let's jump in. Sammy drew a rectangle that was W inches wide. Okay, there's a rectangle. It's W inches wide. So far, so good. The expression 2 times 2W plus 2W, or whatever that means, represents the perimeter of the rectangle that Sammy drew. Okay, so that's the perimeter. Which statement relates the perimeter to the width of the rectangle? And you see your options here. Okay, so we're not really solving for x here. We're doing something a little weirder. But let's just, you see the perimeter is either 6 inches or 6 times, or 2 inches or 2 times the width. Okay, so let's try to work through this. We have the expression 2 times 2w plus 2w is equal to the perimeter. And here's our rectangle. So the perimeter equals 2 times 2w plus 2w. Well, you know the perimeter of any rectangle is going to be, you know, let's say the width times 2 and then the height times 2, right? The perimeter is going to equal the width times 2 and the height times 2, because you have width, height. So it's going to be the width times 2 times the height times 2. And this 2w is the width times 2. That's the width times 2. So when we have 2 times 2w, that must mean this 2w here, we have 2 of them, right? We have 2 times 2w. So the 2w here must be the height. The perimeter equals 2 times 2w, so the 2w must be the height. The height must be 2w. And that's helpful because now we have our rectangle. It's coming into focus. It's w wide and 2w high. Okay, so what do we get if we just throw in numbers and we say, well, we have 1 inch wide, how high is it going to be? Well, it's going to be twice that high, right? So it's going to be 1 by 2 by 1 by 2. So 1 by 2. Okay, so if the perimeter is 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 or 4 plus 2, the perimeter is going to be 6. We have a width of 1. This is our width. Height of twice that, and the perimeter is 6. So what are our options here? It says the perimeter is 6 inches more than the width. That doesn't make any sense. We don't know inches or non-inches or if it's feet or centimeters or whatever. But here the perimeter is 6 times the width. That makes sense. That's going to be our answer. The other option that might make sense is the perimeter is 2 times the width, but no, that's the height is 2 times the width. The perimeter is 6 times the width. The answer is B, and we're good. Okay, on to question 7. Which steps can be used to solve for the value of y? 2/3 times, parentheses, y plus 57 equals 178. Okay. Well, what are we going to do here? Let's go from the bottom up. So D, subtract 2/3 from both sides. No, we're not subtracting 2/3 because this is 2/3 times all this. So we don't subtract 2/3 because this is, factoring. Yeah, it's multiplication. That's not addition. So the inverse of multiplication is division, not subtraction. That doesn't make any sense. Multiply both sides by 2/3. No, because that would just get us 4/9 on this side. So that's not helpful. So we're not going to multiply both sides by 2/3. Subtract 50. No, 57 is inside the parentheses. So how can we do that? We can't get inside the parentheses. We'd have to multiply it by 2/3 first before subtracting 57 would make sense. So that doesn't work. But here we go. Divide both sides by 2/3. So we're going to divide both sides by 2/3. That gets this 2/3 out of there. And we have some work to do over here, but that makes sense. And then subtract 57 from both sides. So that'll get that 57 out of there. Just left with y on this side. Yeah, that's our answer. We're good. Question 8. This question is pretty straightforward. It says solve for x. 0.5x plus 78.2 equals 287. So this is just standard stuff, right? This is good old middle school basics. What do we do first? We subtract 78.2 from either side. That cancels out our 78.2 on this side. We have a little work to do on the other side, but that's not too tough. We get 0.5x equals 208.8. Then we just divide each side by 0.05, which is the same as multiplying by 2. Dividing by a half is the same as multiplying by 2. What do we get? 417.6. Doing out the math either by calculator or the long way by hand. 417.6 is our answer. And we're good. Question 9. Katie bought 4 sweaters that each cost the same amount and 1 skirt that cost $20. The items she bought cost a total of $160 before tax was added. What was the cost of each sweater? Okay, so we have 4 sweaters and 1 skirt. We have 4 sweaters and 1 skirt. Sweaters plus skirt equals 160. So we have 4 sweaters and 1 skirt, and the skirt costs $20 equals 160. I think this is the hard part about this problem, is just getting to this step. I think once we're at this step, we're going to be pretty successful. But actually getting to this step isn't that complicated if you just take your time, read the problem as many times as you need to understand what's going on. You have 4 sweaters. You can draw them out if you want. That's 4 sweaters, 1 skirt, and we have this times 4, that times 1, that's 20 bucks. You get to 160. So what do we do now? Just subtract 20 from either side. That gets rid of this 20. That gets us to 140. 4s equals 140. What do we do now? We just divide each side by 4. That cancels out here. 140 divided by 4 gets us to 35. So that's our answer. Each of these sweaters is going to be $35. The answer is B. And we're good. Question 10. A company ordered 10 boxed lunches from a deli for $74.50. Each boxed lunch cost the same amount, and I bet they were delicious. Which equation represents the proportional relationship between Y, the total cost of the boxed lunches, and X, the number of boxed lunches? Okay, so let's do $74. It says proportional relationship. Let's not be afraid of that. Let's just set it up. Dollars per box lunch. We have $74.50 per 10 box lunches. How much is Y, the total cost? So we have Y, total cost dollars on top, and number of box lunches X below. And what do we do now? Well, let's just do a little cross multiplication just like we always do, just like we're so good at. We do that, we have 10Y on this side, because 10 times Y is 10Y, and 74.50 times X is 74.50X. Now what do we have here? We just have an equation with different variables on the other side, but that shouldn't be scary, and we can simplify it just by dividing each side by 10. Let's just divide each side by 10. What do we get? These 10s cancel out. We're just left with Y. And dividing by 10, remember we just move the decimal point 1 space. You can throw in a calculator if you want. You can do it long division if you want, or you can remember dividing by 10 is just moving the decimal point 1 space to the left. And what do we get? Y equals $7.45 times X, or Y equals 7.45X. And that'll be our answer. Y equals 745X. Okay, let's do question 11. Mike took a taxi from his home to the airport. The taxi driver charged an initial fee of $6 plus $3 per mile. The total fare was $24, not including the tip. How many miles did Mike travel by taxi on his ride? So you have the mileage plus the initial fee is going to be $24, because it says you had $6 of initial fee plus $3 per mile, and the total fare was $24. So you have an initial fee and mileage to get you to 24. The mileage we're going to have to deal with, but the initial fee is $6. It tells us right there, and the total fare is $24. So what do we do now? Well, let's unpack the mileage. You travel X miles, because that's the question. We want to figure out how many miles the trip was, and it's $3 per mile. Don't forget the initial fee of $6, and the total fare was $24. So we're going to have 3 times X because it's $3 per mile, and we need to know how many miles we went. So we have 3X plus 6 equals 24. Once we get here, we're good to go, because we just subtract 6 from both sides of the equation. We have 3x equals 18, because 24 minus 6 is 18. We just divide by 3, and we get our answer is 6, because 18 divided by 3 is 6. So it's B, and we're good. Question 12. Wallpaper was applied to one rectangular wall of a large room. The dimensions of the wall are shown below. 42 feet by 25.5 feet. Exciting stuff. If the total cost of the wallpaper was $771.12, what was the cost in dollars of the wallpaper per square foot? So we need to know per square foot. We need to know the unit rate of cost per square foot. How much cost do we have? We're told $771.12. What's our square footage? Well, we need to know that the length times the width of a rectangle gives you the area, or 1 foot measure times another foot measure gives you square feet. So that's pretty 6th grade stuff. We're pretty confident in that. And we'll just do 42 times 25.5 to get our square footage. We know the cost, and we're going to calculate a unit rate, and we should be able to do this. So first we multiply 42 times 25.5. What does that get us? 1,071 square feet. We still have the cost, and now it's just about cross multiplying. We do that, and we get 1,071 times x, because that's how cross multiplying works, equals 771.12, because that's how cross multiplying works. What do we do now? You probably saw it before, but we just divide by 1,071, right? Because we want to get x by itself. We do the math, punch in the calculator. What do we get? We get x equals 72 cents. 72 cents per square foot. And we're good. Alright, on to question 13. When Kesha installed a fence along a 200-foot perimeter of her rectangular backyard, she left an opening for a gate. Here's the gate. In the diagram below, she used x to represent the length in feet of the gate. What is the value of x? Okay, so we know the perimeter of this whole thing is 200. So 200 is going to equal 30 over here plus another 30 over here, right? Because you got to go all the way around. So 30 plus 30, and we have 60 plus x here. So we're going to have the same measurements on this side. It doesn't mean another gate's going on this side. It just means the same measurements are on that side, right? Because you have 30, it's got to be mirrored by a 30, and you have 60 plus x on this side, so you can have 60 plus x on that side. And we're going to add them all together. Okay, so 30 plus 30 is 60, plus 60 is 120, plus 60 is 180. You can punch into a calculator if you need to, but I think it's pretty clear. 30 plus 30 is 60, plus 60 is 120, plus 60 is 180. So 200 equals 180. What am I going to do with my x's? I have 1x plus another x. What is that? That's 2x. Okay, now this looks like something we can solve. We're going to subtract 180 from either side. That gets rid of this, and 200 minus 180 is 20. 20 equals 2x. Divide each side by 2. That cancels this out, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. So our answer is 10. X equals 10. That means this gate is going to be 10 feet wide. And if you want to just double check it, you can say 30 plus 60 plus 70 is 100. And that makes sense, right? Because 30 plus 70 is 100. This will be 100, and this will be 100. And together, they'll add up to 200. So we're good, and we know we're good. Okay, question 14. A number n is multiplied by negative 5/8. The product is negative 4/10. What is the value of n? So we have n times negative 5/8 equals a negative number, negative 0.4. Right away, we know n has to be positive. Why? Because we know positive times a negative equals a negative. There's no way to multiply a negative by a negative and get a negative. So we know n has to be a positive. So we know boom, 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 A and B are out the window, but we still have two choices left, so we have to do the math. And also, we know that the choices are given in fractions, so we can't just convert everything to decimals, right? We have to go the other way, convert things to fractions. I mean, you can convert it to decimals and then back to fractions, but it'll probably be easier because we already have a fraction here to convert this to a fraction and to slog through. So let's do it. Okay, so we have n times negative 5/8 equals negative 0.04. 0.04 is 4/10, right? So let's just make that negative 4/10. And if we simplify that by dividing the numerator and the denominator by 2, we'll get 2/5. So we have n times negative 5/8 equals negative 2/5. What do we do now? Well, just solving equations, right? We're going to divide each side by negative 5/8. We're going to have negative 2/5 divided by negative 5/8. This shouldn't be super weird. If we had, 3n equals 12, it's simple to just divide each side by 3, right? That'll get us our answer. N is going to equal 4. Well, here, we don't have simple numbers. They're fractions and they're negatives, but we're doing the same thing. We're just dividing by the number that's multiplied by n. So that should, it shouldn't be too foreign, too weird to us. And here we have negative 2/5 divided by negative 5/8, but we can just think about that like this, like a division sign, instead of like one giant fraction with a small fraction, the small fraction of the numerator and the denominator. If we look at it like a division problem like we did in 6th grade, well then, we're just thinking about keeping, changing, and flipping. And that's not scary at all. We keep the negative 2/5. We change division to multiplication. We flip negative 5/8 to negative 8/5. Notice that we just keep the negative sign on top. That's the convention. But either way, it's one negative sign, and we know that n is going to be positive anyway. We have two negatives here multiplied together, and that's going to give us a positive. And we have 8 times 2, negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16, and 5 times 5 is positive 25. So we have 16/25, and that's our answer. And we're good. Okay, question 15. I do not like question 15. Amber determined that the expression negative 1/2 all over negative 41/15 is equivalent to 15/82. Which statement describes the process Amber could have used? I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, I want to solve this problem the way I want to solve it. I'll do it 3 different ways if you want me to. But why do I have to follow the steps Amber might have used? That could be confusing. And you know what? It is. And I totally have sympathy for you. But we have to do the problems that are given to us, not the problems we wish were given to us. So let's just go through it. So what do we have? We have negative 1/2 divided by negative 41/15. And it comes to a positive number because we know a negative divided by a negative is a positive. But what should we do? Well, we're going to do a keep change flip, right? So we're going to keep the first, change the division to multiplication, and flip the second. Hopefully we're all still on the same page. We have negative 1/2 times 15/41. And I know I haven't read the answer choices yet, but I'll get there, because what you need to know to get the right answer is that you can think of negative 15/41 as negative 15/1 times 1/41, which makes sense, right? You're just pulling this thing apart. You're turning this into 15/1 and this into 1/41. And that makes sense, right? Because if you just take this and you multiply it 15/1 and 1/41, or negative 15/1 and 1/41 together, you'll get that because you multiply the top and you multiply the bottom. But you got to be able to think of this fraction as being able to be pulled apart into its components. 1, the numerator over 1, and 1 is the denominator under 1. Okay, so you have negative 1/2 times negative 15/1 times 1/41. Okay. Next step. Any number over 1 is just that same number. That makes sense, right? So negative 1/2 times negative 15 times 1/41. Next step. Maybe you've never done this before, but you can do keep change flip in reverse. Because multiplying by 1/41 is the same as dividing by 41, right? Think about it. Take a time to press pause if you want to, but keep change flip definitely works in reverse. So we're going to keep the negative 15, we're going to change multiplication to division, and we're going to flip 1/41 to 41/1. Okay, now we have another number over 1. So what are we going to do? Let's just get rid of that 1 and say we have negative 1/2 times negative 15 divided by 41. And if we do those steps, we'll see that one of our answers, B, fit the bill. She can multiply negative 1/2 by negative 15 and then divide the result by 41. All the other answers aren't going to get you where you need to go, But this answer B certainly will. And that's the steps you could go through to get there. Now, if you wanted to do it a different way, you certainly could. But that's how Amber chose to do it, and B is the right answer. And we're good. Okay, question number 16. Question number 16 is similar to other problems we faced earlier in the packet, so hopefully we're in a good place to be successful on it. Mr. Gonzalez has only $42.50 to spend at a clothing store. He wants to buy a shirt that costs $29, including tax, and some bracelets that cost $4.50 each, including tax. Write an equation to determine X, the maximum number of bracelets Mr. Gonzalez could buy. So we have bracelets plus shirt equals $42.50. It says equation, by the way, so we're going to use a equal sign. If it said inequality, we'd use the greater than or less than signs, but it says equation, so that's going to mean we're using the equal sign. Bracelets plus shirt equals $42.50. Bracelets plus $29 for the shirt, because the shirt costs $29. Bracelets plus 29 equals $42.50, and bracelets are $4.50 times X, the number of bracelets. So X is the number of bracelets, each costs $4.50, so $4.50X plus 29 equals $42.50. $4.50X plus 29 equals $42.50. That's our equation. Part 2 says, well, why don't you go ahead and solve that equation? And you know what? We're happy to. $4.50 X plus 29 minus 29 equals $42.50 minus 29. That makes sense because we want to simplify this, and getting rid of the 29s makes it more able to be dealt with. Then we have 450x equals 1350. What do you know? Let's just divide each side by 450. That cancels this out, and plug into a calculator or do it out the long way by hand if you want. We get x equals 3. Mr. Gonzalez can buy 3 bracelets. That's the answer. And you know, in the real world, this probably would very rarely come out to exactly the number of, exactly the dollar amount for the exact number of bracelets. So it would probably be better written as an inequality rather than an equation question. However, we have to do the questions we're given, so that's how you do it, and 3 is our answer, and we're good. Question 17 is another question like question 16 that we should be able to be successful with. Members of a baseball team raised $967.50 to go to a tournament. They rented a bus for $450 and budgeted $28.75 per player for meals. They will spend all the money they raised. Write and solve an equation that models this situation and could be used to determine the number of players P the team could bring to the tournament. Okay, so you have meals plus bus equals $967.50, and you have $450 for the bus because we're told $450 for the bus, and your meals are players time $28.75 because it says $28.75 per player, so player is P. We're told that player is P. P times $28.75 plus $450 equals $967.50. All right, once we're there, we're good to go. We know how to solve equations like this. First, we're just going to subtract $450 from either side. Then we're going to have P times $28.75 equals $517.50. We're going to divide $28.75 from either side. And what do you know? Our final answer is going to be P equals 18. And that's it. We're good. And now, question 18. Ms. Hernandez has $100 to spend on parking and admission to the zoo. The parking will cost $7 and admission tickets will cost $15.50 per person, including tax. Write and solve an equation that can be used to determine the number of people that she can bring to the zoo, including herself. Okay. So, should have highlighted this on question 17 as well, but you need to make sure that you really read these questions carefully. It says write and solve an equation. And I bet you a lot of people, because these tests are long and there's a lot of words to get through, will only write an equation and not solve it. And you want to maximize your points, so you got to do both. You got to do what the question asks you to do, and the only way to do that is to slow down, read carefully, and make sure you're asking the question that's asked. But here we go. Admission plus parking equals 100. Admission plus 7 equals 100 because parking is $7. We're told that. How much is admission? Well, we're told it's per person is $15.50. So X people times $15.50 per person plus 7 equals 100 because 7 is your parking. All right, how do we solve it from there? Let's just subtract 7 from either side. We get X times $15.50 equals 93 because 100 minus 7 is 93. Divide both sides by $15.50. And our final answer is 6. And we're good.